So when I joined the registrar's office in 1989, the registrar at that time was someone who was really involved with AACRAO. He's somebody who became president of AACRAO. He had been on the board, so he was very involved with both the state association, Ohio AACRAO, as well as the national office. And so it was really important to him to encourage, especially his leadership team, to get engaged professionally, because he saw from his own experience the value of that interface and connection with people at the professional level, and the growth experiences that you have in terms of being able to learn more things, but also be able to return the things that you would learn and get involved with, and be able to share that with other people. So it was really an important professional development aspect for him, and so he passed that along. And I guess I would also say that I was a joiner type of person in terms of my personality. It didn't take a lot of encouragement for Gene to get me involved. I went to AACRAO, my very first AACRAO in 1990, which was in New Orleans, and I've been to every AACRAO since then. I was on the board for a term as the vice president for records and essentially the registrar's related records and academic services. And so I had been in that role for 3 years, and then went on to the 3-year president rotation. So I would have been president in 2014, 2015. I think that we worked hard at trying to make sure that the board was taking a more strategic direction, trying to differentiate our role versus the program planning and what was the responsibility of the executive director in alignment with everybody in the office. We were certainly making sure that the organization was in a good financial footing. Earlier in the organization, we had some real financial challenges, and we worked hard for several years to make sure that we were moving in a more positive direction from a financial stability perspective. And so that was clearly something that we were engaged with as a board. I would argue that was also very much in alignment with what we were trying to do, was to be more strategic. One of the strategic things of a board is to maintain that fiduciary responsibility of what is our job as directors from a financial and fiscal responsibility and planning perspective. And so those were very much in alignment. And again, working really closely with Mike as he became a newer director and got immersed into the organization. We were also working on the very early part of the core competencies development, which really went on past the time that I was president, but that was something that the board was working on, trying to get a sense of each of our areas of focus within the association, so kind of registrars, admissions, enrollment management folks, and any of the corollary or related areas. So we did a lot of work with financial aid, for example, even though financial aid wasn't a specific part of the association. And so how could we work on developing a better sense of framework around each of those areas that would provide a good opportunity for the strategic direction of the association to meet those needs of those areas from both a training and information flow perspective to our members, and help give them a framework for training and development, because again, that was related to trying to provide a better sense of strategic direction and organizational development for the association as it related to the strategic direction for our membership support. The value of the relationships among the people on the board, and trying to make sure that you're thinking about, you want to think holistically as a board and try to work together as a board. So how do you make sure that that happens? Develop the close working relationship, in my case, with a fairly new executive director and the leadership team within the national office. That was really important. But also to make sure that you're keeping in mind, why are you there? You're really there to try to help provide a good sense of leadership, to work with all of the members, and what are the things that you're trying to provide to the membership, because that's why you're there. Communication is really critically important from a board perspective, both within the organization, in terms of within the board, working with the office, with the national office, the executive director, and definitely back to the membership. How do you make sure that you don't become insulated as a board? Because I think that was one of the things that came up. How do you make sure that you're communicating and directly relating back to all of the members, because that's really what you're there for? Those kinds of things I think were really important, and they were building on the experiences that I already had within AACRAO. I think that they're moving in the right direction of recognizing our industry is evolving very rapidly. So there's so many drivers for our industry that are really kind of front and center at the moment. There's a lot of legislative, government kinds of things going on that directly impact the direction of the association. And obviously Melanie and the folks in the office are aware of that as they kind of keep on top of that. Technology is rapidly changing. Technology has a huge impact on how we conduct our business. How does technology impact how we do our business, how we make our decisions? What's our sense of direction as an association as we think about the implications of technology changes is pretty significant. We're also wanting to make sure that we continue to be, financially solvent and engage with the membership from a financial perspective. The world is different now. Institutions, their financial flexibility is different. So, the board has to work with that in terms of evolving. So lots of moving parts. The board, the national office need to kind of go with the evolution. And one of the things that we've always talked about as a board during my time is you can either be at the table and be part of that discussion and help shape that discussion, because that's really strategic. I keep using that word. Or the changes are going to happen and you have to react to them. But when you react to them, you don't have the same level of input. You don't have the same opportunity to be able to help shape the direction and help provide that connection back to the membership in the same way. So I know that the board, I know that Melanie and those folks realize how critical it is to be at the table, part of that discussion, and help shape the direction, as opposed to just be reactive to the changes that are going to happen regardless. Well, on the personal side, it's been one of the best parts of my professional experience. I spent decades involved with AACRAO. It was a great opportunity to be able to give back to people, to the association, to members, whether it was through things that I wrote or presentations or, just board involvement, those kinds of things. But the bottom line is, for me, the people connection that I made for all of those decades, some of those folks are and continue to be wonderful friends and will always be wonderful friends that I stay connected to, or even if I don't see them very often, the value, not just from a professional perspective, but from a personal perspective, is just incredible and life-changing from that perspective. I missed some of that. Obviously, I'm retired. I'm not engaged in my office, and I'm not as engaged with AACRAO on a regular basis as I used to be, and missed some of that. Yeah, what I learned from folks, what I learned from the association, both in terms of specific, but also in terms of leadership development and all those kinds of things. The organization has a great sense of continuity. So even though I'm not as engaged, I watch folks that kind of I helped mentor or be engaged with as they were developing professionals become leaders of the organization, leaders of the profession, and that's exciting to watch as well. And you feel a sense of accomplishment